I guess we all have an opinion on what we should do next, and it's a great debate. I always find it quite stimulating. But I'd like to emphasize a couple of points. Going to the moon, exploring the moon is very, very difficult. It's not easy. Sometimes we made it look easy because the television was terrific. Jack Schmitt bouncing across the moon singing Merry Month of May. Wasn't easy, it was difficult. Going to Mars is about a factor of 10 more difficult.
Not to mince words.
We know how to do it, we could land, but the duration of the flight, almost three years, puts us in a situation where we need new technology and new capabilities to go to Mars. At the same time, going to Mars over that long period of time is very expensive. Cost about $2 jillion or whatever.
It was money wasted.
Cost about $2 jillion or whatever.
The first question that was asked, I don't think there was a soul in the astronaut office back in the 1960s that wouldn't have thought we would have been on the moon by the year 2000. Mars. Excuse me, Mars. It's a big mistake. But that's the way we thought about it in those days.
Not to mince words.
But when you ask about, I don't think there's anyone that's better qualified than NASA to evaluate the various options. Until we were willing to pay the price, the American public is not going to have a very aggressive space program again.
Thank you. Tracy Watson.
Yeah, Tracy Watson with USA Today. For Mr. Cernan and Mr. Duke, I think, since you've had a good stretch of time on the moon, what advice would you offer NASA about sending astronauts back for longer missions? What are the big considerations in your mind about making that stay there, productive and reasonably comfortable? Thanks.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Gene.
You'll find out most of us have a lot of advice for NASA at this point in time. We can recapture that kind of spirit in America. We can recapture the spirit of the space program. We can live and stay on the moon as long as we want to. Charlie and I were there for 3 days. I mean, we both, I'm sure, would rather have been there for 3 weeks. We didn't have the capability nor the time.
It was money wasted.
But we need to go back to the moon. We need to learn a little bit more about what we think we know already. And, you know, someone asked a question earlier about where we thought we were going. I was the last guy on the moon. And when I came back, I got on my soapbox and, you know, everyone said, how's it feel to be the tail of the dog? How's it feel to be the last one over the fence? The end. And I kept saying, it's not the end, it's the beginning. And I really believed that we'd be back to the moon by the end of that decade and on our way to Mars by the turn of the century. My glass has been half empty for 3 decades at least. And but hopefully we can turn that around, because what we did then is doable again. And I think the next major goal is not to spend three days just on the moon, or three weeks, or three months on the moon, but to sit here, have you folks or your kids or grandkids sit here and talk to a group of guys that can tell you what it was like to go to Mars.
I think, let me answer that operationally. Two-week stay or day of what on the moon is a challenge for the systems that we have today. We need to develop a better spacesuit, more tactile feeling, easier motion. Lunar dust, I think, is going to be a real problem for a long duration. So we're looking at, you should look at concept, things like that we need to look at and to develop, and that work is going on. I participated in back in December, a few of us did a lunar suit symposium. Jack Schmitt, Apollo 17, chaired that.
It was money wasted.
And we're trying to give we're looking at some of the new and so the operational problems, we're going to solve those decisions to those to help them make the right decisions. And I think we can do it, and I think the human spirit's going to return us to the moon, and then build on that, and on we go to Mars eventually.
Those things we need to do for long-duration flight, for protection, and all that, why go to the most difficult place, the surface of the moon, to do those? Why not do those at the space station? We've got a pathway that doesn't require us to expend our resources that are precious right now. We put $100 billion into the space station, and that's enormous in comparison to what the other nations do.
It was money wasted.
Do we want to put 200 billion into permanence on the moon, or 6 months on the moon? Why? We can help other people with all these studies we talked about. The dust on the moon is different than the dust on Mars. It's different from the dust here because there's no water, no air up there, and so it's fractured. It's sharp pieces of dust. And that's not going to be the way it is on Mars.
Thank you. Question down here.
Randy Shostak with EOS, the newspaper of the American Geophysical Union.
It was money wasted.
The newspaper of the American Geophysical Union. Not to mince words, then President Nixon told the Apollo 11 astronauts when you came back, quote, "This is the greatest week in the history of the world since the creation." I'd like comments and perspective from Mr. Aldrin and others, please.
Well, it was eight days, and it was certainly a great eight
Stimulating.
days. We didn't start with "Let there be light" and then end up with at the end of the week set aside Sundays for reflection. Landing on another object is what will enable us to put many other things, determine many other things with humans being there, inspiring other people. Let's do that. Let's expend our resources in these precious times when we have to conserve things right now. Now is a starting point when we need to look at the economic way to get started.
It was money wasted.
Let me comment a little bit if I can.
Thank you. We have, again, to look at what we want to do with our space activities. What do we want to accomplish? Now, if you talk to the scientists, we barely did anything with the moon. We barely did anything with the moon. They would love to have the last of the Apollo flights continue, 18, 19, and 20. Because we've just stepped on the moon, we spent at the most three days there. Because we spent a lot of money up there for almost nothing. It's almost a white elephant. Because we spent a lot of money up there for almost nothing. It's almost a white elephant. And until we can really get a return on our investment of that particular project, then it was money wasted. So you have to look at what the priorities of our space activities are. Go back to the moon, expand the space station to look back at the Earth, expand the space station to look back at the Earth, then that is a project that will bring the Earth closer together. All the countries working on a project that has a common goal.
The Augustine Commission.
It provided for those young dreamers who follow in our footsteps.
I always find it quite stimulating.
Not to mince words.
I always find it quite stimulating.